Hey, badass business owners. Today I want to talk about something that some of you are doing and it's wrong. It's so wrong on so many levels, and we need to talk about this. What am I talking about? And this is going to be for those of you that pay people in your business to help you out. Specifically, if you also pay people that happen to be family and friends. Now, what am I talking about? Look, I understand that our income goes up and our income goes down, and we have to pay bills out of that income, including our own. And a lot of times what ends up happening is when the money comes in, we prioritize where that money goes. And in some cases, in order to keep our lives afloat, our family afloat, we've got to take that money. And in exchange, something else doesn't always get paid, because if we're running our business too lean and mean, or we're not stocking up during the good times, we end up with a shortage, and at some point, somebody's going to get screwed over. Now, who tends to get screwed over? That is important, because sometimes it's just bills, vendors that you need to pay. It's wrong for you not to pay them. Do not misunderstand. But it's even more wrong to not pay the people that are helping you in your business, and they get put aside and told, hey, I'll pay you a little bit later on. Now, some of you are listening right now, and you might be part of my coaching. You might be part of my bookkeeping. And yes, even some of you are probably going, oh my God, she's talking about me. It's not just you. Okay. Trust me, I have multiple people that I work with that have this problem from time to time. And I also know this happens way too often in a lot of people's business for me not to have a conversation about this, because I think it's important that we talk about why this is a bad thing, because there's a lot of levels on this. First and foremost, let's talk about the human side of this, right? We're telling these people that have committed their time and energy that they're not worth getting paid, that appreciate you doing all that, but I'm going to take care of me first, because that's really what they hear. Now, in some cases, you may not be taking money either, in which case, hey, I'm screwing you and I'm screwing me. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. You know what? I'm going to get you. I always get you. You know I'm going to get you. You know, stuff like that. The reality is, you can't do that to people. It's the wrong thing. It's bad for business. It's a bad habit to have. And it's really poor management of your funds on your behalf, because this is where a lot of this happens. Is we have a couple issues. One, we might be bidding our jobs completely incorrectly, in which case we are not creating enough profits out of this for us to be able to pay people. Now, remember, when you are pricing your stuff, whether it's your materials or your jobs, big jobs, little jobs, it doesn't really matter. Labor needs to be a part of this. So if you know that you're going to hire some people for a couple hours a week or a couple hours for a specific job, you need to make sure that the costs cover and that price covers the cost of that labor, as well as the materials and everything else. Now, I get sometimes they go wrong or whatever. Now, part of what I find is sometimes we are pricing correctly to cover the labor. However, we've built such a bad foundation for our business. We are so far in debt. We have so many people we owe. We can't get out of it. Now, the best way to relate this to is in most people in their personal life, because there are times when people's income does not equal all the money that they owe people. And we tell them, you need to prioritize this, right? We need to make sure that our house is on, that we pay our mortgage, our rent. We make sure that we pay the electric. We put food on the table, the core basics. And our business is very similar. The difference is we need to make sure that our business isn't getting further and further in debt, because just like in life, the further and further in debt you get, the more and more that you owe other people. It's like this snowball, right? You start off $100 in debt, and then next thing you know, you're at $1,000 in debt. And next thing you know, you owe thousands of dollars in debt. You might go out and purchase a car, and now you've added that debt, or maybe you've gone out and you've run up the credit cards and you've run up that debt. Next thing you know, all of the payments for all the debt come out to a couple $1,000s a month that you've got to pay. Well, your business sometimes will end up doing the same thing. So now when you get the money in from the jobs, you're sitting there going, okay, who do I pay? These are all the people that I owe money to. Who am I going to take care of, and who's going to come first? And we kind of like play this game going, well, I haven't paid this person for a long time, so they're going to get some of the money. And I haven't paid this person, they get some of the money. But what ends up happening is we think because of the relationship with people that we have, especially if they are family, friends, etc., that it's easy to not pay them because we think we can make it up to them. But you got to remember, they also have bills to pay. They also have food to put on the table. They also have rent and everything else that they need to pay, or a mortgage or whatever the case may be, and they deserve to be paid. You know, sometimes I see this when people have kids and they're like, oh, it's my kids. I don't have to worry about them because I help take care of them and this and that. Once again, it's sending the wrong message. One, your running of the business is now coming off on them. They're the one paying the price because of the way the business is running. It could be other family members. It could be a spouse. Oh my gosh, don't even get me started on how many of you have your spouse working for you and you don't pay your spouse for all the work that they do. Now you can sit there and argue, okay, a spouse is a little bit different. They're helping me get the business going. And at the same time, they're part of that owner's draw and that other money, and that's how they're benefiting. Once again, long picture, short term, it's okay. But long term, if they're helping you for years and years and you're never paying them, how do you ever expect to pay an employee to help you out when you can't even take care of the spouse and make sure they get on the payroll, right? Sometimes they'll like, oh yeah, I'm just trying to save up or get to the point where I can hire someone. No, here's good practice. Pay the spouse. Even if it's minimum wage, pay the spouse so the spouse can start getting you and your business to start feeling what it feels like to pay another individual. At the end of the day, the biggest thing that I just really feel in my bones that I'm supposed to talk about is it really comes down to how you're running the business as a whole, right? On one hand, it's absolutely wrong for you not to pay people. I don't care who they are. They could be the person on the corner. It could be somebody that you picked up. It could be somebody you hired for the day. You know, you made a commitment to them that you will pay them for the job that they did. You've got to find a way to pay them. You need to make sure that, because what happens is it snowballs, right? It might be this week, I don't pay them. And then the next week I pay them, but then I owe them the following week. And it's like, now I'm even further behind. Instead of me paying them weekly like I promised them, now we're actually a week behind in all the payments. And I promise you, the minute you go 1 week behind, it will be 2, it will be 3. And next thing you know, you owe them for months of work that they didn't pay. And then you're trying to figure out how I'm going to do it and how am I going to make this work? And it becomes, I promise you, it becomes a nightmare. It becomes something that you start feeling bad and going, I know I need to fix this, but I don't know how. But meanwhile, you know what? There's more money going out for other things that you're taking care of. And at some point, you've got to stop some of this. The madness has to stop at some point because you've got to make sure that you're taking care of your people. You need to be taking care of everything that you commit to. I mean, if you commit to a vendor, you need to make sure you pay them. If you commit to borrowing or paying somebody to do something for you, you need to make sure you take care of them. If you owe taxes or something like that, you need to make sure you're taking care of them. Once again, this is one of the main reasons you always hear me talking about running a debt-free business. Because when you start to get behind, when you take on debt, when you rack up those credit cards, when you do all of that stuff, it makes it harder and harder for you to take care of your business, even though you might have a great business. You have a business that should be making tons of money, but when it's ran poorly behind the scenes, you can't just get off the ground. You always feel like you're struggling. You always feel like you're crawling out of some hole that you've managed to get yourself into. And it seems like the more you crawl and you scratch to try to get out, you just keep getting deeper and deeper because once again, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You keep trying to figure out, where am I going to come up with the money? Where am I going to come up with that money? Please make the commitment to yourself that if you're out there and you know you owe people money in your business, I don't care who it is, all right, that you are going to start figuring out, how am I going to get caught up on these people? Then how am I going to stay on top of the money to pay them? Because honestly, if you can't come up with a way to pay people, you really shouldn't hire them. You really should try to figure out how you're going to do that job on your own. And by the way, there are people out there that would prefer to stay solopreneurs. They don't hire anybody for this very reason. They don't want to have to manage people, and they don't want to have to worry about getting them paid. But I'm also talking to you guys because there are some of you that don't have employees, but because you hire people here and there to help you, sometimes you don't pay them either. It's wrong. Okay. It's just wrong. How would you feel that you do a job for somebody and they don't pay you? I know it ticks you off, right? You get so mad at that customer for not paying you because now you're on the hook for all the things that you owe. How is that any different than you not paying your employees, your family, your friends, or whoever's helping you? How is that any different? Okay. You are no different than the person who's not paying you. And I'm not here to try to chastise you or make you feel bad or any of that. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm trying to do is have a good, honest dialogue with everybody about the fact that we need to make sure that we put a plan in place that we are always going to pay our people. And if that means that you don't get paid, it means you don't get paid. And if you don't get paid, you know what happens when we don't get paid? A lot of times we end up hustling. We end up doing everything possible to come up with a way to make that money. But for some reason, we don't do the same thing when we owe other people. I want to make sure that we know that if you can't afford them, then you can't hire them. You can't use them. You can't promise them something you know you cannot deliver. You've got to find a way to do that. You would never do that for a customer. If you had a customer that had burned you not once, but twice, you would start insisting on them paying you up front for what it is that you do. Because you know that you're providing value to them and you're taking your time and your energy and you expect to get paid. Same thing with our people, okay? It's like I said, it's a combination of things. Sometimes it's a pricing issue. Sometimes it's a matter of we got ourselves so far in debt, the debt took over and it started to go crazy on us. But then I see people who are in debt and getting worse, and they take out more debt thinking it's going to help them get out of debt. It doesn't work that way, okay? A business is no different than your personal life, just like I said earlier, okay? Because most of the time when we have these problems in our business, it may not be every single time, but a lot of times we have the same problem at home, right? Because when I can't pay my people, a lot of times I can't pay me. And if I can't pay me, then I've got the same problem. And then we justify in our head that, oh, sorry, I'm being screwed just as much as you're getting screwed, So just do me a favor. Just please make sure that you make a commitment that if you hire someone, you're going to get them paid. And if you owe people money, you're going to come up with a plan of how you're going to get them caught up. What are you going to do to get them caught up? I'd rather see you go back to somebody else even though, no, I don't like that either. Because you not paying somebody else, a vendor or something, is kind of doing the exact same thing to them. You're screwing that business over and instead of yourself. So ultimately, it's about how do I come up with cash in my business? And it's not debt. It's not I'm going to go take out a payday loan. It's not that I'm going to go, do the title of my car, or I'm going to go to the bank and try to get more money. Creating more debt to get out of debt is dumb, because it just makes that hole that much bigger. But you got to figure out, how am I going to get more sales? How am I going to get out there, and how am I going to hustle, and how I'm going to create some business? How am I going to find a way to make sure that I can get these people caught up? Even if it's not all at once, to at least say, look, moving forward from today forward, you will definitely get paid. I understand that I owe you $1,000, $2,000, whatever. And this is what I'm going to do. I wish I could give it to you all at once. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to commit that I'm going to come up with at minimum $500 for the next few weeks until I get you caught up. Talk to them. Come up with a plan. Let them know that you at least acknowledge that, hey, it's my fault I haven't been able to pay you. Take ownership of it, and then tell them the plan that you've put together to help get it taken care of and get caught up. All right. Like I said, I am not here to make anybody feel bad. That is not my goal. My goal is you have a problem and we need to figure out the problem. We need to figure out what is a way that you can get these people caught up, but more importantly, you stop the bleeding. That today moving forward, they're going to get paid in real time for the money that they're owed. And because don't let it keep falling behind and saying, oh, put it at the back, put it at the back. In some cases, you have to do that, because if you're on regular payroll, then you got to pay them for those weeks, right? So you kind of have to stay on that payroll. But same thing, I see it also when people are on payroll, they don't pay their taxes, they don't pay their payroll taxes, and they let that snowball. And I'm telling you, the government's going to come after you. And instead of you owing $300 or $400 on that taxes that you aren't paying, by the time you pay it, it's going to be $600-700 because you're going to start getting fined and penalties and all that other good stuff. Not to mention, they're going to come after you. So I get it. It's hard. Okay. And it's really hard when you've had some success and all of a sudden the wheels come screeching to a halt. But there are also times when people get big things, they get big jobs, and instead of getting whole and getting caught up, they just spend like a drunken sailor on a bunch of other stuff or fill their own pockets going, oh, finally I can take some money and I can take care of myself. No, you need to take care of your obligations first, then you can get done. You've got to make sure your priorities are straight. And I get it. It's hard because most of you business owners are taking a lot of crap at home. Okay. If your business is struggling, I guarantee you that your spouse is giving you crap, right? Because your spouse is tired of, beans and rice and trying to figure out how they're going to make it work or how they're going to pay the bills and everything else. They're just as frustrated. So you as a business owner, you're getting it from all ends, right? You're getting it from home. You're getting it from your workers. You're getting it from your customers. It's just all of this, right? And this is one of the main reasons why businesses fail. A really good business fails because it drowns itself in this cash flow problem. They don't have the cash to pay themselves. They don't have the cash to pay their vendors. They don't have cash to pay their employees. They don't have cash to pay their subs. They don't have cash to grow the business. That's what ends up hurting them. This is why we need to have this dialogue, because it stops today. You have got to make a commitment that it stops today. Okay? That's all I'm asking. And if you need help with it, we can talk about it. We can see what's going to be the best route for you to be able to do. But at the end of the day, you've got to change your mindset, because if you think it's okay to not pay yourself, to not pay your employees, to not pay your vendors, you are no different than the customer who refuses to pay you, right? It's the same muscle, right? If the customer says they're not going to pay you, they make a conscious decision in that moment, hey, I can't pay you or I won't pay you, right? And if you don't pay your employees or your vendors or whoever, you're making a conscious decision not to do it. You're no different than the customer who doesn't want to pay you. So don't get mad at that customer who won't pay you because you're not paying what you're supposed to be paying. You know what? I get it. It's a snowball. One thing snows into the other and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And next thing you know, you feel like you're, Indiana Jones running from that big boulder that's rolling behind you. I get it. It sucks. All right. But we've got to make sure that we find a way to stop the bleeding. And a lot of it starts right up here in our mind in saying, enough's enough. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to make some changes in my business. I'm going to make sure that when people do work for me, that I am not that person, that I'm the person that makes sure that my people get taken care of. You know what? There's things that I help people out with. I have a real estate side, right, as well. And there's times I have to hire out vendors, and that vendor is maybe my customer is slow at paying them or doesn't pay them. You know who makes sure that my people are whole? Me. Because I'm not going to let the people that count on me to give them business or that I've asked them to help my clients out, I'm not going to let them get screwed. I don't like it. I get mad at my clients for not paying them, but I'm not going to screw over that vendor because I asked them to do me a solid and take care of these people. Trust me, I don't like that. I don't like giving my money up to things that I shouldn't have to give my money up to. Right? It's tough. I have to figure out where I'm going to get the money from to take care of that because somebody else didn't do what they were supposed to do somewhere down the line. I get it. It is not fun. All right. Now I'm going to stop lecturing. I'm going to stop giving this thing. I'm not here to shame anybody. That is not what I'm doing. I just want to wake you up. If I could reach through the camera or through this microphone and just grab you by your collars and shake you and say, what are you doing? You know what? Let's come up with a plan. That's what I would be doing. And that's what I'm really trying to do today. Okay. It just was heavy on my heart. I've been watching it. I've been hearing it. I've been seeing it. I've been overhearing conversations. I've been listening to different things. I've heard other stuff. It's just, it's out of control right now. And I know why. It's rough out there. But you control you. You control your business. You got to figure it out. All right. There is a solution. Quit digging deeper. you got to stop. So the first thing is stop digging, and then start figuring out a plan to get caught up and how to stay on top of that plan from today moving forward. All right. With that, I'm done. I promise next one will be a lot more fun. But this one, like I said, heavy on my heart. We needed to talk about it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.